So today I have Catherine Davis from Organized by Catherine with me here. Catherine has been working with the BACD for probably over 2 years now, right, Catherine?
Yes.
And we are very happy to have her on our interview here today. These interviews are put on both podcasts and video channels. So we look forward to hearing a little bit about you and letting people know about the services that you offer and, you know, the journey that you've gone through to get to where you are today. So welcome, Catherine. It's great to speak with you.
Thanks, Teresa. Glad to be here.
Thank you. So tell me, a question I love to ask is, you know, what inspired you to take that leap into entrepreneurship and running your own business? You know, it's a big leap, big risk for a lot of people. Love to just, you know, what brought you to that journey of actually going to that point?
I was going to a job interview and I was at the offer stage. So I'd been to several interviews and I was being made an offer, and I came home and I told my husband, I can leave this job in 2 years and look for something else. And he said to me, if you're thinking about leaving that job, it's not the right job for you. And he said, I want you to take some time, do some soul searching, and think about what you really want to do with your life. And thank goodness, I found an article in a newspaper written by a professional organizer, and I really enjoyed the article. So I contacted this lady, and she invited me to the Professional Organizers of Canada Durham chapter, and I met 20 other professional organizers there. And I was convinced that was what I had to do.
That's it. And so why organizing?
Because I do it naturally. And I think you're better off if you're starting a business to do something that you're naturally good at. And it has to be something you enjoy and you're passionate about. So in all my previous jobs in my corporate life before I became an entrepreneur, I was always doing organizing of some sort for my employers, whether it was organizing their office supplies or organizing spreadsheets or organizing staff into doing a function. So it's something that came naturally to me and I enjoyed it. So when you're looking around for something to do as an entrepreneur, you have to draw on what you're naturally good at. So that's the extension. By extension, I just decided to become an organizer.
Right. And why do you think it's important to be in love or be passionate about what it is you're doing?
Because being an entrepreneur is such a hard job. That's why. And you're going to want to quit so many times because you work harder for yourself than you do for any other employer. You're your toughest critic. You are everything. You're the marketing department, you're the strategic, you're the CEO, you're everything. And a lot of days that's trying. And you will want to stop and you will say, you doubt yourself. And you say, I want to stop. I need to go back to a paycheck. I'm afraid. You're constantly fighting your own fear. And so you have to love what you do in order to stick with it.
Right. Because many times, I mean, people say that all the time. So it's pretty pithy, you know, oh, you have to be passionate and love what you do. Passion doesn't always bring the money in though. But if you don't love what you're doing, it'll quickly become old and stale and you'll just be like, that's it, I'm quitting. So yes. The passion is what keeps you from quitting, right?
That's right. You think, if I can just find this client, if I can just contact this person that needs my services, it will be so much better. And that's what keeps you hanging on, even though you're having trouble with, say, a marketing issue or an accounting issue or something like that. Yeah.
Very true. One of the workshops I run is a marketing, or any of the ones, even the startup session that we run here every week. One of the slides is a guy with like 15 hats on his head. And I say, this is you. You are the CMO, the CAO, the CEO, the CTO, but you're also the vice president of everything, and you're the director of everything, and you're the manager of everything, and you're the worker of everything.
Yes, that is so true. And I attended those sessions, and they were very helpful when I was starting my company. Okay. So yes, I remember that session.
How did it help you, did you find?
It made me realize that I was biting off a lot more than I could chew without knowing the skills that I was going to need. I think when everybody starts a business, they think, I'm going to go out and do this and that, and they don't think about all the 20 other tasks that they're going to have to do in the background to make a viable business.
Right.
So you have to be able to do a little bit of your own accounting. You have to do all of your own accounting at the beginning. You have to be able to do marketing. You have to be able to do networking of your services. So there are a lot of things that people may not be naturally good at the beginning, but you're going to have to figure them out if you want to be an entrepreneur, a successful one.
Right. And then, as soon as you can, hire out what you can and continue to do what you can, right?
That's right.
So tell me, how did you figure out that your service was needed, that there would be customers who would buy what you wanted, what you sell?
There are a lot of people, when I tell them that I'm an organizer, they immediately go into a tirade of all the problems in their house or all the problems in their business. So there is a huge demand. There are 500 professional organizers in Canada. We have our own professional association with training and continuing education and an ethics code. So the fact that organizers have organized themselves into a national body suggests that there is a need.
Very cool. And what do you do with your customers? I'd love you to take us through some of the types of work that you've done with them.
Sure. A lot of my customers are home-based entrepreneurs, and they have a home office, and the home office quickly gets out of control with the amount of paperwork they have. And if you're not naturally an organized person, it's quick for your office to get out of control. So some offices are not usable anymore because people can't get in the door due to the amount of supplies in there, paperwork, disaster. So I do a lot of home offices, but in other things that I do for people's homes, a lot of kitchens need reorganizing. Because that is the busiest room in the house, and people are often willing to invest a little bit of time to have that room function to the best of its ability based on its size. Other areas of the home I do are organizing garages. A lot of people, their garage quickly gets out of control because it's a huge storage space and a lot of the stuff is on the floor. So we just have to reorganize it such that everything is off the floor into some sort of storage on the walls or the ceiling, and then they can park their cars in there for the winter.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah. But I also organize retail stores as well. So I do storage rooms, paperwork for businesses.
Now, do you do anything digitally with businesses as well?
There are digital organizers. I'm not one of them, but there are professionals. If somebody needs a digital organizer, I reach to my organization and I find them one from within.
Very, very cool. Very cool. What's one of your favorite things to do in business?
Favorite things to do in business. When I started, it wasn't, but it is now, networking. Networking functions, going out and meeting people, creating those relationships. A lot of people think networking is a hard sell of their business, and it's really not. It's going out and meeting people and hearing about what they offer and being willing to give and not constantly forcing your business on people. Networking is about building relationships and being comfortable enough to talk about your business, but you're not pushing a hard sell on people. So it wasn't something I was very comfortable with at the beginning because I'm an introvert, and now I'm forced to go out and talk about my business.
Right, and meet people. I teach networking courses quite a lot, and I think one of the, and you know what, I'm extroverted, but I'm not I'm more shy. So when I used to go to these networking events, I would also stand around the outsides and I would like, oh my gosh, who am I going to meet? What people? I almost feel a little bit of an introvert when I go to networking events. And one of the switches that helped me was to always think about it. It's not a sell. It's not a place to sell. It's a place to open a relationship and make friends.
Yeah.
For me,
you have to go with thinking that it's going to be a good time in your head. It's not something, it's not an obligation, it's an opportunity.
Yes.
And that's, yeah.
And I always go with the other thing. You never know who you're going to meet,
That's right.
Yeah,
somebody may not want your services, but you never know the 200 people that person knows.
Exactly what I say. And I love when, we have so many networking organizations and opportunities that you can go to. You can meet, and I found this for our business, is that in the beginning, you meet a lot of suppliers and a lot of vendors. You don't necessarily meet customers. But as time goes by, those suppliers, those vendors, those other, as you said, their networks could become your customer, right? It's
absolutely
building that trust, likability, building rapport with people is so important. So that's awesome for you that you found the way to turn that switch, right? To go from feeling like the last thing you ever want to do is networking to now going, I'm doing it.
Yeah. And looking for opportunities, constantly looking for different ones, because not every person and not every client and the network that you want to meet doesn't always attend the same functions. So sometimes it's a breakfast function and you'll get breakfast morning people. And
Right.
other times you have to go to an evening function because you'll get people that will never be breakfast people and they will attend an evening function. So you really have to look for different opportunities out there to hit different people.
Very, very true. Do you have any in Durham region that you find are really worthwhile going to for you?
I've joined a BNI chapter. That has been my greatest source of referrals. I've joined the Ajax Pickering Board of Trade.
Yeah.
I just recently joined that one, but I'm looking forward to all the events that they sponsor and going to those. I do the BACD luncheons. I try to touch base with BACD. It's still in my network of networking, taking seminars and constantly going back to that. It's a comfort zone, so it's wonderful to touch base and go to an educational seminar at the BACD. I also like Heart of Networking, and I'm getting involved with other people from BPA, which is also a networking organization.
Right. And, I think you're smart. You need more than one. You need a couple,
Yep.
maybe 2 or 3 that you have in rotation. Because you need to get to know these people really well, and they need to see you at more than one place.
Yes, because I think people aren't going to refer you until they've seen you many, many times and spoken to you. And you have to build a relationship before you can expect business from somebody. They have to like you and trust you and know you.
Yeah, and you're smart as well. It really is important to keep your skills tight and honed. You want to keep learning and stay up to date, because business today is very complex. I find it's way more complex than it used to be. If you just think about what's happened in the whole digital marketing sphere, and there's so much more complexity to business than there used to be, and so much more regulation and rules and all that sort of stuff. So staying sharp is really one of your secret weapons, right?
Yes.
I think anyway.
And you don't want to offer what you don't know, what you're not passionate about. You can't be everything to everybody. And I think as I progress as an entrepreneur, that's something that I'm learning to do, is to take what I'm good at and focus on it, and not try to be the jack of all trades. For example, digital organizing is not something I love, and I don't offer it in my business.
Yeah, very smart. A question for you. Are you glad you made the jump into entrepreneurship?
Most days, yes.
Right. Because I always say to our newbies who start out at the startup session, now, if you think you're doing this for the money, I'm going to let you know that that's going to be a long way coming. So do it for the love first.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
Oh, that's so true. Question for you. Do you think there's some sort of pattern for entrepreneurs to be successful? Is it patterns or formulas or traits that make somebody successful?
I think you're going to have to be willing to fail a little bit, because you go in with grand plans and then things are going to fail, and you have to be willing to turn the boat. So if something isn't working, you're going to have to take some advice from a mentor or somebody who's better at it than you are. And you're going to have to bite the bullet, say, I was wrong about that, and steer the boat in another direction. So you have to be willing to change.
Very good point. And adapt, and stay resilient in all that you do.
Yes.
Have you seen any significant changes in your industry, like the professional organization industry, since you've been in it?
Recently, there was a Netflix show, Tidying Up with Marie Kondo, and that has really helped us become more prominent, because I think 2 years ago, if you had told somebody you were a professional organizer, they would have had no idea what you do. A Netflix show has helped us, funny enough, and she's not a Canadian organizer, she's not a US organizer, but this lady has brought so much attention to our industry, and she's brought so many people to the profession. So I guess there's more competition out there. Yeah,
for sure. But it's also more competition, but it's also raised the profile of a professional organizer.
Yes. I guess another trend would be that people are downsizing as people get older. The large cohort of older people that are moving out of their homes, selling their 40-year, 50-year-old homes, and they're moving into smaller spaces. So we're dealing with a lot of downsizing of older generation, and younger people aren't living in as big a space as they used to. A lot of people are living in very small, tight condos, so we're having to deal with issues of storage and making things multifunctional for smaller spaces.
Right. And I've also noticed a trend where the older folks that are moving out of these houses, nobody wants the furniture, nobody wants grandmother's china, and they don't want any of these things, right?
That's true. The market is flooded with china, silver, big, what do they call it, brown furniture. It doesn't have the value, that hutch and the matching dining room table with 8 chairs, the very heavy solid wood furniture. The market is flooded with it, and it's disappointing when you have to tell somebody they were expecting to receive thousands and thousands of dollars for their furniture, and you tell them you'd be lucky to get $100 for that piece. There's no market for the piano.
Wow. And here's the kicker too, is that the piece, if you sell it for $100, someone's going to paint it white and sell it for $800. Right?
Yes.
Because I've seen that happen. And I mean, I'm the same. If I bought a brown piece, I'd be changing the color. It's just how it is, you know. Do you see any other trends coming up in organizing?
I think there will be a push for more digital organizing as our lives become more on our phones.
Yeah.
So there's a need to have all your devices synced and working properly. So I think that's what a lot of people will be turning to organizers for in the future.
Right. And I even think of myself, I have an Apple phone, so then I have Apple storage, but I have Google emails, I have Gmail storage, and then I have a Dropbox account. So I've got things across all these different platforms, right?
Yes.
So I would imagine if I have that happening, other people do. Question for you. You mentioned earlier that the fear is something that you have. How do you manage it? How do you break through that fear every day?
You try to do a task that involves that fear. So if you have a fear of public speaking, you join a networking group that forces you to public speak and you will get better at it. Get
out of your comfort zone, right?
You get out of your comfort zone. If you're not comfortable writing emails, you start by writing a short, brief one to a friend and asking for feedback and changing your style and just trying what you're not comfortable with.
Very good idea. If you know, the hardest part about comfort is that nothing changes. And so you don't grow. So getting out of your comfort zone, feeling a little uncomfortable really helps you to grow and feel proud of yourself and believe in yourself a little bit more. One of the things I notice with entrepreneurs, in my experience, it's when they stop believing in themselves that it goes downhill. So breaking out of your comfort zone and doing things that make you uncomfortable, make yourself feel good, pat yourself on the back, right?
And many of my mentors have said you have to set a goal, you have to write it down, and you can, once you see the goal on paper, you can break it into little manageable chunks.
Would you agree?
So, for example, starting a newsletter seems like a huge ordeal, too much writing, too much content, don't want to do it, don't have time. But if you break it down into a little activity that you can do 15 minutes a day and learn a new system, and it's going to be a task that you say, I'm going to get this done by next year, or I'm going to get this done in a month, or you set yourself a goal that's manageable.
Very true. I like that. Now, if you had a chance to start your career over again, would you do anything differently?
I would have liked to have started being an entrepreneur at a younger age. I just never really considered that because as I left university, the thing was you find a job and nobody ever encouraged us to make a job. So I guess I wish there had been somebody in my life that could have said, you know, what do you want to do at that stage? What do you want to do? And maybe, I guess I would have hoped that university students or high school students would be encouraged to start a job, make a job for themselves.
So true. 7 years ago when I started at BACD and started doing the trip around to the Durham College and UIT and to the high schools and asking students, you know, who here is interested in starting their own business? It literally was 10-15%. Now it's become so mainstream and we go around 75% want to have their own business. There's a huge, huge shift in people's mindsets as well, right?
Yes, and I think that's because the majority of Canadians are going to have to create their own jobs. We can't rely on US corporations to come in and give us great paying jobs. You're more secure if you rely on yourself to create employment.
Very true. Now, one last question for you. What would you say are the top 3 skills needed to be a successful entrepreneur?
Top 3. You have to be willing to change.
Okay.
Change things that don't work with you. So you have to be, I guess the skill would be open-mindedness.
Yes.
Another skill, you have to be willing to try new things. So you're going to have to step out of your comfort zone at some point.
Right.
So that's a big skill to have.
Yes.
And a skill, you want to meet other people. You want to network. You want to be curious about your profession, about other people's professions, and just get out there and grow your network.
Right. And I've heard it said many times that when you say to an introvert, it's not that hard, just get out there and go and meet people, that there's a lot of inner work and dialogue that has to go on actually to get you to that point, to be out there. But you are right. Step outside of your comfort zone and go meet some people. You make friends. I have made lifelong friends from networking. I have gotten jobs. I've gotten business. I've, opened businesses just from networking. So I think it's one of the most valuable skills you can ever have, is being able to communicate and connect with people, right?
Yes, for sure.
So Catherine, thank you very much for sharing a little bit about you. People can find Catherine by her website. We've got it on the top right of the screen. But for those that are on the podcast, it's organizedbycatherine.ca. And we will have links to her website and her information as well, so that everybody can get it. So thank you for your time today. It was lovely to chat with you, and I look forward to continuing to work with you.
Thanks, Teresa.